Welcome to Carl's Corner, where the block stays hot. Here on the corner, we give you a glimpse into the world of sports. The intersection of sport and life is where we meet. Today, we have my brother from another mother and a dear friend that has meant the world to me for 30 years. Stevie Johnson is probably one of the most beloved Iowa State athletes for truly being the most relatable and compassionate person you will ever know. During his time at Iowa State, Stevie played on some of the most accomplished basketball teams in the school's history. And when he was done playing basketball, he transitioned to the football team. We will discuss that as well. So we'll unpack that a little bit as well. Stevie finished his pro career a few years ago, playing overseas and at a very high level. We will go over his professional career and personal life as well. But if you would please support this channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing this video with your family and friends. So I have want to go right into it. I want to welcome Stevie. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate you having me on.
Man, this is truly a treat. So for some of you watching, and we'll see this, there's gonna be a lot of teeth you're gonna see because I enjoy talking to Stevie. Like I said, he's one of the most relatable dudes, down to earth, humble, sincere individual. Yeah, so let's just start a little bit, with your background from rural Mississippi, your family, discuss your dad's athletic prowess and your mother's guiding hand, and then your siblings.
Okay, so thank you for having me, Kay. You know, a lot of people may not know, people who know us know how close and what you mean to me. Like a kid from a town of 2,000 people from Beaumont, Mississippi, coming from there, going to Iowa State. But let's start at the beginning. So my dad and mom met at Alcorn State University. My dad was on the track team and he played football. He was drafted, I can't remember the year, it might have been 78 or 79. And he played for the Denver Broncos, he played for the Houston Oilers for a little bit, but he got injured early on. And my mom, basically from college, she became a school teacher and taught fourth and fifth grade pretty much for 40 years right there in our city. A lot of, and she started so young, so she, and they had me at 30, so she taught a lot of my classmates' parents. That's how it's just well respected. My mom, everybody knows my mom, like in that town, So growing up, my first, I come from a pretty big family. I have 2 sisters and 4 brothers, and I'm the youngest. Everybody was great at sports. Like my dad, really, his genes was really strong. I hear stories. My mom friends always tell stories how great a basketball player she was,
Okay.
So she don't like us to say we got everything from
your dad. Don't leave me out. You guys come by it honestly from both of us. I know that's
right. So she'll throw that in there, But all of my brothers was just extremely athletic. My sister, before she got sick, my sister got diagnosed with lupus when she was 16. So that kind of halted everything she was doing. And I think she was at a basketball camp, had got really sick, and it took some tests. We didn't know anybody with lupus at the time, start doing some tests. But I just remember that they would bring, when you're the fastest, and my siblings was always the fastest.
Okay.
So men was coming to race my sister. That's how, and she was smoking. Like she was like crazy fast. And my brother Junior was kind of short, but he was really fast, Then he grew up once he got to high school. And just growing up in a family like that, I had a lot of cousins. All we did was play sports. But one thing about my dad, I started off, the first sport I played was baseball. That's
the one that got me going.
That was my first love, baseball. But my dad, he really was, I'm really trying to, I don't know if he wanted us to want it more, but because he was working and he would always say, well, I want to be there. I want to help coach because I want you to be learning things the right way. He didn't really let me play sport.
Right.
My cousin had to come over and beg him to let me play baseball. And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to help coach or something, you know. And that was the first sport I had. And we didn't have a lot of like, when I got like maybe in the 5th grade, we started to get some of the youth sports in the school again because they hadn't had it in so long. So we got a little basketball team, and maybe we had like 4 or 5 games. You know, we started getting a little pee-wee football teams and stuff in the area, and it really didn't really get really organized till probably my 7th grade year.
Okay.
And that's when we started. You know, we had a football and a basketball team, and we growing up, we never lost anything. Like we did we started with T-ball. We won state, we won everything, but they didn't rate. We didn't have enough money to go play nationals.
Right.
But I remember because I always been a bigger kid, my mom would have to carry my birth certificate.
Yeah, tell them no, this is really his age.
Yeah, because we would go play these kids and nobody could hit, you know, T-ball. I don't know how old we were. There must have been 7, 8, or whatever. We were hitting it over the fence, and they haven't seen that. So you got these parents screaming. My mom pulling out her birth certificate. It was crazy. And then I remember the first time I really played, like we would play street ball all the time. The first time for basketball, they was doing a little challenge at school. I think we was doing like a fundraiser, and they was letting the kids gonna play basketball for whatever. I don't even remember. But I was like in the 4th grade, and we were playing the 5th graders. And I had been playing at home or whatever, but I did really well in that game. And then that's when everybody started talking about it. So get to junior high. I remember our high school basketball, our girls' high school basketball team, I want to say in 1988, was 2nd in the United States women basketball.
Wow.
Like we had a girl, Dion Steele, that was like a superstar. Dion used to always play, because we would play pickup in the different neighborhood, and she would always play with the boys. And I mean, she would what you would later see from like she was a star athlete. She ended up going to UCLA, not UCLA, Louisiana, USC. I can't. What am I? LSU.
LSU.
She went to LSU. So she got a scholarship to go there. And yeah, she was our town superstar, you know, Dion. So I would watch her play, and then I would watch my brother play, and then, you know, we would play off to the side. Then I got big enough to actually get in some of those games, you know. So my brother's always probably was the hardest on me. And even though I wasn't supposed to be out there, if I was out there playing, you know, you got to play. You got to, you know. So it was, and I couldn't go in. If I went in crying, then my dad wouldn't let me go back.
Right.
So whatever happened, whatever butt whooping I
face up before you go in the house.
So they would just beat me up. My oldest cousin, they would literally just beat, like, so it taught me so much, because I was so much tougher than the kids my age.
Right.
Because I was always playing against, because I was bigger, I was always playing against bigger, stronger, you know, just their athletic ability was way superior to mine. Right. But I remember, like, so starting that, I 7th grade year, I think, we did really well, and we lost in the championship game in basketball. We only lost 2 games, 7th and 8th grade. One in we won the championship in football that year, lost in basketball. My 8th grade year, we won in basketball, lost in football. But we lost at the last second in football. It's still controversial to this day when I go home, because we was winning the game. Coach told me I kicked the onside kicker. Well, Swerve kicked it. They passed it back, or whatever. Most of my guys thought the game was over because the horn went off. We still got to tackle the guy, you know. All their fans ran on the field, and he ran it in, and we lost. So that was there. But I remember my 7th grade year, my best friend growing up was a little bit taller than me. So I was, I don't know, 5'9", 5". I don't know how tall I was at that time. But we were so excited because we had just started touching the backboard.
Yep.
and we was touching the pad under the back. We wasn't even hitting the backboard, you know. My buddy had a ring on, and he went up there, and everybody heard it ding and hit the glass, and everybody went crazy. Like that was like the last day of school, and I was like, he was out jumping me. He never could beat me in there. I'm like, I got to do something about this.
Right.
That summer called.
You was hard.
Yeah. My dad said, I said, I want to jump higher. So he said, get you a little brick, do toe raises. I would do toe raises until I couldn't even stand. I would have to sit down. Then I would do more toe raises. And then I'll take my bath or whatever. And I grew that summer. So the next year we came back, everybody was still touching the backboard, and I was dunking. Like any way I wanted to dunk, I was dunking.
Wow.
You know, we had more people coming to my 8th grade games than going to the high school games. Like it was crazy. And in Mississippi, they have a rule where you can play 5 years of high school. So they was trying to move me up to play my 8th grade year to play high school. Yeah. And my dad said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to let him, you know, stay there. But we ended up, fast forward, my niece ended up doing that. My oldest niece. So yeah, that started it all, man. High school, went to high school as a freshman. I don't know how many points I averaged. I ended up with over 3,000, like almost 3,500 points or something like that. Yeah. When I left Mississippi, I was the 2nd leading scorer in Mississippi history behind Othello Harrington.
Harrington. I still tell that story today. Yeah. When they were recruiting me, I'm like, yeah, he's 2nd all-time leading scorer. And for anyone who doesn't know, Othello Harrington played for John Thompson at Georgetown. And then
played about 10, 12 years. I don't know how long he played in the league.
He had about a 12-year career in the NBA. Yeah. So
at that time, that's where I was. Now I have no idea, because people don't understand, we have a lot of great high school players out of Mississippi that went out of high school. Big Al Harrington, Jonathan Bender.
Straight out of high school to the NBA.
They went straight out of high school, and they were scoring points. Monte Ellis. Yep. Monte was scoring like 80, and like all those guys
was from Mississippi.
Yeah.
Okay. For you who don't know, he played with Steph Curry. They moved him along when they realized Curry and Curry were going to be their backcourt in Golden State.
Yeah. So they all came after me, and I'm sure they tore up the record books. But in high school, it was. I love my high school coach. I still communicate with him to this day. That's awesome. They ended up my freshman year. We always hosted a tournament where we played. We was a 3A high school, and it goes by the size of your whatever. We always played 5A schools. So Stone County and Gulfport, Mississippi is where Chris Jackson went.
Yeah. My buddy Van played in the backcourt with Chris.
Okay, Chris had 50 on my brother them. And like, to me, people always have these conversations about the best player to come out of Mississippi. To me, it's not even close. It's Chris Jackson. Mahmoud, I don't know.
Abdul-Rauf, for people who know him as a Denver Nugget.
Please go back and watch film. He was doing stuff that nobody ever saw. Like, he was Pistol Pete. I don't think anybody ever averaged more points than Pistol Pete. But Chris, as a freshman at LSU, put up crazy numbers. Yeah. And he was just, my dad used to see him. My dad worked in Moss Point, Mississippi. It was like an hour drive, but he would see Chris in Gulfport. If it was storming, raining, this kid had on a rain jacket out there still shooting. And like, to me, he's the greatest basketball player to ever come out of Mississippi. Like, and I don't think it's even, you know, he's still playing the big three today. He's still
we see him with all his gray, still getting buckets. Shout out to Abdul-Rauf.
Yes,
my buddy Van Gross, who was in his backcourt. They shared a backcourt in high school.
Whatever stories Van tell you about him are true. Because
he would show me newspaper clippings. He said they would be booing us in the first when we walked in the gym. By the end of the first half, second half, they cheering these two getting buckets. Yeah.
But Gulfport is like on the coast. It's much bigger than what we are. But we always had a tournament with those teams in the tournament. We never lost one of them. When I came from the 9th grade on, we never lost our tournament, the open tournament. And I just say that because the team we beat that year, my brother friend, one of my older brother, one of his buddies played for Stone County. and we call him Big Job. He's a pastor now, but he was on that Stone Cold. He was a senior, and he had told my dad right for the game, that everybody called me Frog. They got a good little team, but they just too young, And my dad called me over and told me that, before the game. We ended up beating them. Good. That same year, it was early in the season, it's the preseason tournament or whatever. And they probably was missing a couple of players that was playing football. They ended up beating Antonio McDye's team for the state championship in 5A. That same team we beat, earlier that season. So
Antonio McDyess, former NBA player at University, was it Alabama? He played college ball at? Yeah.
Yes, Alabama. And he was a beast in high school. Quitman. He was from Quitman, Mississippi. And I can't think of the other guy that was on his team that he went to Southern Miss, and he had a great career overseas. I think he might have played a little bit in the league, but they were tough. We ended up beating that team, that Stone County team, and won the championship. And that's everything took off. Because I dunked on Jock that game. Jock could jump higher than anybody ever seen. Right. But what people didn't know about me, it wasn't that I could out jump people. I just jumped so fast.
Yeah, you were quick off your feet.
I got off the floor. People don't understand, So we always
can jump a little bit too.
I can jump a little bit, but it wasn't that I could jump so high. Yeah, I'm gonna beat you there.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna put it in before you even get, think about even jumping. I was just really athletic, and it was just from there, everything just skyrocketed. That game, I don't know how many points I averaged as a freshman, but it seemed like junior high to me, really just playing. And my coach was always tough on me. He never gave me breaks. He didn't praise me. He praised me now. I come talk to the kid. Now I'm the best thing. But back then,
the best thing since sliced bread.
Right.
Good, huh?
But then, and that is what I appreciate about it. He was so tough. He was tougher on me than anybody. Okay. But I knew he loved me.
There's a lot, and we'll talk about these other coaches at Iowa State.
Right. Because I know why he was tough. Right. It wasn't like I couldn't go in his office and talk to him.
Right.
I was the example. Everybody was going to look at how he treated me. And because he could coach me hard, coaching everybody else hard was easy.
Yeah.
And he coached everybody. I'm from a small town, so he had coached my sister, my brothers, my everybody. He was there.
Wow.
So I don't remember. I want to say maybe between my freshman and sophomore year, we would go to the little basketball camps, and I would have to work. My dad never if I wanted to go to camps, I got to work and make my money so I can go to these camps. So I worked in the summer, made enough money. I went to South Alabama camp, and it's crazy how small the world is. But it was this one guy I remember I had to be I think I was a freshman, because I remember talking about, the freshman is the best kid in this camp, And I think I can't remember, he played in the NBA. It might have been Mel Turpin or somebody. He was talking trash to me, say he was going to play me one-on-one and stuff. And I was just terrified, because I was just too humble,
Yeah.
But I ended up doing great in the camp.
Imagine that.
And there was this guy named Gerald Snyder that was there handing out these flyers. He said, I want you to come to my camp. And it was a showcase camp. And it was in Jackson. It was, I think, at Millsap College in Jackson.
Yeah.
So, and when you were really good, I don't even think I had to pay for it. It was like $250 or something like that. I don't know what it was. And that was the start of everything. So basically, his showcase camp had college coaches around every court. Folding chairs around every court. And from then on, I started getting letters from everybody. After going to his showcase. So Gerald Snyder, I think he passed away a few years ago. Nate, I met, who's with Fred now at Nebraska. He met Gerald when he was at Southern Miss with Coach Stacy.
Okay.
So he knew Gerald was still doing it. And he told me, a couple years ago, Gerald passed, but he's the reason why I was able to get so much attention in that small town, because that showcase camp put me on the map. I went there to perform as a freshman, and
did you go back every year?
No.
Okay.
It was that
Just
one
that freshman year.
And then I was getting letters, from my by the time I became a senior, so go back to my freshman year, we played in this tiny gym. And I don't know if you ever see videos of gyms and everybody is standing
Yeah,
around
just
the court
around the
in this pack.
sideline. Yep.
That's how our gym was. And
Okay.
they like, we got to do something about this,
Yeah.
Steven. So
Yeah.
I
See,
always,
bringing
I
people
always
together.
tell them the house that Babe Ruth built on the hill. So we end up getting this big gym
The
that we
house on
filled up,
Stevie built. Nice.
after sophomore, because I'm not gonna say because of me, but we were
You
good,
were. You were.
but it was the time was behind us, so it was just from there, anybody you could think of, they came. I remember having they actually came to the school to see me. Notre Dame came, Tennessee, like everybody would come at one point and sit down and talk. And then as a kid from a small, I didn't know what it meant to go to a Notre Dame. I just said, man, Notre Dame, a football school. I don't want to go there.
Right.
I had no idea as a kid, education from Notre Dame, what that would mean, but it was overwhelming. It was very overwhelming because back then you couldn't just leave.
Right.
Coach was coming to recruit, and they would make you feel like if you don't come to their school, it's gonna be the worst thing ever, And it was just so much attention. I remember my dad. I wanted to go outside and play the first day of that they can actually call you for the recruiting. Right. I don't remember what day it was, but we had a house phone. It wasn't no cell phone.
Right.
And I said, I want to go out today. My dad said, you're gonna be here all day. If somebody's gonna call you, you're gonna be here. The phone started ringing at 6 a.m.
Never stopped.
The first call was from crazy Coach Weaver at Alcorn State. Was the first person to actually call.
So he was at Alcorn State then. Coach Weaver was. Wow.
Yes, Coach Weaver was at Alcorn State. Coach Weaver.
Shout out to Coach Weaver.
Yeah, he was recruiting the best player. I think my senior year was Brian Adams. Okay. Brian Adams went to Piney Woods. Piney Woods was kind of like a deforming. Bad kids went there. They had to work in the farm and stuff like that. But to me, Brian was he was the most polished out of all of us. Most of us was really raw, but Brian was going to the Michael Jordan camps and all those. He could have went anywhere. Wow. And to this day, we still laugh about it whenever we see each other. We're like, Brian, what did they give you? How did you get to Alcorn? Like it's crazy. Like we still laugh about it. And I want to say Brian might have wrote a book. Brian was a big deal in our area. He might have wrote a book or something about it. But I know his uncles or the people who was his guardians had a relationship with Alcorn, and I think that's how he ended up at Alcorn. But Coach Weaver left.
Yeah.
Not soon. He always said I stole his coach. Not soon after Brian signed there. Maybe I don't remember the year Coach Weaver came, and I was maybe was sophomore year. He wasn't there as a freshman.
Was he? I thought
maybe he was.
He was there as your freshman year. Well, and just so people know, I became a manager on the ball team in your second year, and your sophomore year. And to this day, I still am indebted to you because all I wanted to do was be a part of the basketball team. And you know who you talked to get me on? Coach Weaver. Mm-hmm. You advocated on my behalf, and Coach Weaver's like, yeah, okay, we'll take him. So I'm almost positive he was there your freshman year, but I know your sophomore year, prior to your sophomore year, before the season started, that's who you talked to bring me on.
I remember, and I apologize. We're gonna go through this. I called, how tough it was on me at Iowa State. Most people don't know. Yeah. I don't remember anything. Like, I'm gonna do my best so we can go back and talk about a lot of stuff. But we've been having these reunions where me and Paul, Shirley, and Mike Nurse, Cantrell Horton be telling stories, Yeah. And me and Paul came the same time. We was freshmen together. We roommate together. Mike came my junior year, and Cantrell came halfway through the junior season. So it was never a time that I wasn't there when they was there, I don't remember any of these stories that they be telling. What did I do?
Well, let's do that though. Let's talk a little bit about Iowa State. But let's talk about what got you to Iowa State and then just jump right into what it was like. Let's start with that freshman year because that's when you and I met. But how did you get recruited to Iowa State for those who don't know the connection with Tim Floyd and all of that?
So Iowa State, started recruiting me early. My high school basketball coach, Coach Floyd, is from Oak Grove, Mississippi, which is right there, a suburb out of Hattiesburg, where Southern Mississippi. My high school coach is also from the same area. Coach Floyd babysit my high school coach as a kid,
Wow.
you know, and he was telling him about it. So they started recruiting me really early. Coach Floyd, and that's one of the reasons why I went to Iowa State. Because my dad, like, he look, Floyd could sell.
I tell people that to this day. You talk about true Southern hospitality and charm. This dude was the most charming guy off the court I've ever been around.
The only reason why I came, my dad loved Coach Floyd. And I was such a humble kid that me and my family, we laugh about it. I don't know if I picked Iowa State more than my dad.
My dad did.
You know, because doing the recruit, I took 3 recruiting visits. I went to see Bobby Knight. I wanted to meet Coach Knight at Indiana.
Yep.
When I went there, AJ Guyton was on the recruiting trip.
AJ Guyton.
AJ went on, had a great career there, and went and played in the league for the Bulls. And when we was on our trip, I said, "Are you coming here?" We both said we wasn't coming, you know. But AJ went there and had a great career. I went to Miami, Coach Leonard Hamilton, who just
retired from Florida State.
He was at Miami.
Yeah.
At the time I went there, and one of my guys I had played against my entire high school career, Mario Bland, he went to Miami, but we was on our recruiting trip there at the same time.
Okay.
And he ended up going, and I remember it like it was yesterday, Carl. So I want to pick Miami, by the way.
Yeah,
all the wrong reasons. A kid coming from.
Listen, I was trying to have Miami pick me. I love their football team, but running track, I was trying to get Miami to pay attention to me, but I wanted to go there for all the wrong reasons. So I get it.
I've never, and I have to tell you how it was for me growing up. Like, my dad was a deacon in the church, and it seemed like we was at church every day.
Yeah, I get it.
My dad was really tough. Like, and he had seen my brothers. I'm the youngest, so he had seen my brothers maybe get babies right out of high school and, you know, end up going to work jobs and stuff. I didn't get to do anything.
Yeah, he wasn't having it.
When I came to, I looked up to you. I looked up to even to Mike and Reggie, because y'all had so much, I had no confidence. That people don't understand. I was really good at basketball, but I didn't have braggadocious confidence. You know, I had a little bit of confidence to be that good or whatever. So I literally, Coach Floyd recruited or whatever. I ended up going to, we went to Iowa State, but on my recruiting trip to Miami, we was on the beach. We was getting ready to have lunch, and it started to rain. So we had to come under these cabanas and stuff and eat on the inside. And I don't know if you remember, but Sports Illustrated used to have these swimsuits editions.
Yes.
They just happened. Maybe it's coincidental. They happened to be shooting one at the same beach we was at. All the models had to come inside and be right where this two kids from Mississippi.
Yeah.
Coach Hamilton would talk. I guarantee, and we always yes sir, no sir, looking at you in your eye. Yep. I don't think I looked at the man yet. Look, all these. I'm like, I was so excited to get back to that hotel room and call my dad, like, this is it. We can cancel the rest.
I'm coming here, Dad. He was like, nah, that's all
He said, don't you sign anything. You come home, we'll talk about it.
You come home now.
You know? I was like, oh, I don't think I need to see anything else. You know? Oh my God. And he told me during that trip, he said, you know, they always ask who you're looking at. I said, you know, Iowa State been recruiting me for. He said, well, you know, Tim Floyd going to the Bulls. It's already a done deal. Coach Hamilton told me that on my recruiting trip. That
your senior year in high school.
So when Coach Floyd ended up coming to the house after I had took my visit to Miami, you know, and my dad upset, and it's always in the local paper because his dad coached at Southern Miss, and he's just a legend from that area. Yep. Tim Floyd to the Bulls, all these rumors. And Coach Reed actually, I don't know, I think he coached Antonio McDyess at
Yeah.
one point, maybe in Alabama.
Yeah.
But he would call McDyess, because when I'm around him and let me talk to him. But
Yeah.
anybody who knows McDyess at the time, he didn't talk very much. You
No, he
got
didn't
these,
talk at all back
you,
then.
yeah, you got these two Mississippi people don't talk, just on the phone, listening to each other breathe. I guess I don't know, but yeah, they said Coach Reed is coming to Southern Miss, and
Shout
Tim
out to
Floyd
Coach
is
Reed.
going. This was in the local papers,
Yeah.
and they both said, "No, man, that's not true." Blah blah blah. But Coach Hamilton actually told me on my recruiting trip.
Mm.
So signed with Iowa State.
Yeah.
Um,
So now you're on campus. You're at Iowa State.
first day.
Yeah.
First day.
Talk about that freshman year, because now you're playing alongside some junior and senior guys.
Senior.
Seniors.
Seniors.
All the starting five was all seniors that are kind of laying the groundwork for what the future program was like. So talk about that.
So I remember going to Iowa State when I took my visit there. Eddie House was there visiting as well. Eddie House went to play with the Celtics.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they were playing Kansas, and it was Paul Pierce, and it was and I'm looking, I'm like, I can get some buckets out here, I'm looking, but I didn't understand basketball. Like, I was an athlete, but I didn't understand how things work. I didn't know why Bankhead wasn't shooting the ball.
Right.
I didn't know that Bankhead was the best defensive player in the Big 12, or the Big 8, or whatever it was at that time.
Big 12.
So I'm thinking I could come here and definitely give y'all some points. That three didn't give y'all no points, because everybody thinking Paul tell this story all the time, Paul Shirley. And I tell him to stop telling it, that when Coach Floyd, there was recruiting Paul. Paul basically came on as a walk-on, and his mom had researched something that he could walk on the team. I forget. He was just telling us some kind of way he was able to walk on, because they had stopped recruiting. They said we didn't have no more scholarships or whatever. But his mom found a way he could walk on, and I think he was able to get some grants and stuff. But Coach Floyd told Paul, I'm rooming you with this guy, Stevie Johnson. He won't be with us long. He probably played 1 or 2 years, and he's going to be an NBA. Paul tell this story all the time, trying to embarrass me. So clearly I'm an underachiever, but he loves to tell
it, playmaker.
He loves to tell this story. I'm like, you got to stop telling that story there.
That story, Paul.
Yeah. So I remember the first day, my dad and mom came up with me, dropped me in my room. I didn't see him again. They Paul parents were there helping him put his bed together, and it was a culture shock to me.
I remember what the days were like.
Coming from Mississippi to Iowa was like night and day. So I'm trying to figure everything out. I'm shy. I don't have my dad didn't let me do anything in high school, so I don't have any great social skill. I was always funny and stuff like around my friends, but you put me around a new group of people, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to observe and look. And that team was all seniors.
Right.
So, and I glanced over the story about when I went to South Alabama camp as a freshman in high school. It was this really tall guy that was dunking and looked like he was just going to tear the gold out, and he was going to college there. That was Kelvin Cato.
Kelvin Cato.
Potato. The Kelvin
Houston Rocket.
Yeah. And it coming to Iowa State, I didn't even remember that was Cato, but he remembered. Boy, I remember seeing you at the little camps or whatever. So you had Kelvin Cato, Kenny Pratt, who was, I think, don't get enough of what he did on the court. Kenny was.
Yeah. He was like a 6'4" power forward.
He wasn't Carl. I was tall.
I know he wasn't.
I'm barely. Kenny was maybe 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, closer to
what he was doing out there was amazing. The way he spin the ball and how he was playing against Rafe LaFrenne. If power forwards wasn't 6, they were 6.
No, they were 6'9", 6'10". Off top back then.
Kenny would get that ball. We had a play. He would get it at the top of the key right there, and he would just kill it. Anybody. Kenny, and to me, I always tell Mike and Cantrell and all the great shooters I play with, I've never seen anybody like Dedrick.
Right. Yeah.
Dedrick.
Rest in peace, Dedrick Willoughby.
Rest in peace, Dedrick. Dedrick didn't miss in practice, Carl. Like, if he missed one shot, you never saw him miss 2 or 3 shots in a row.
Right.
It was just in. So I'm getting there, and I'm trying to. Me and Paul nervous. You know, we go to practice, and we all seniors, and they treated us like, you know, it was kind of a bully system. You know, you're a freshman, whatever you do.
And your point guard was J.C. Holloway, so keep going.
J.C. Holloway, point guard. And me and J.C. always laugh whenever we get to the reunion because from the time we step on the campus, they always try to recruit us out of there. It just couldn't. They just couldn't. J.C. Because the year I came, DeAndre, I can't think of me and DeAndre I can't think his name. But he was supposed to come in there and take the position from JC. Not happening.
Not happening.
So I remember in the summer, we get there and we started to get together and play. For some reason, Cato wasn't coming to the gym to play. He kind of had got big.
I got a little slow.
Yeah. So I remember Cato showed up. We were playing at Hill because we normally played at the smaller gym. He showed up that day. And I remember JC coming to the hole during the game. And JC kind of like faked like he was going up and punched him in the chin. Cato had this slit. And for me, I didn't know how to take that. I didn't know what was going on. Because I didn't know he was trying to, you ain't gonna complete. It was a reason he did that. But me, I didn't understand that at all. Like, I'm like, if you ever do that, if I would kill you out here. Like, this is the end of my career, you know. So that happened at like early on, whenever probably the first time Cato came to play with us. And they kind of set the tone for that team. Because JC was the leader. Like, he was respected. He was the leader, and he always played hard. He always controlled the game.
Yes, he did.
But I learned so much. I was able, I don't know if I got it from my dad. I always had a knack of, you showing me something one time, I can get it. Dedrick didn't talk to me that much, but I remember him saying, hey, when we get in the gym, Coach Floyd rule was, and I don't know how this works with what we know about the body now. As soon as you open the door to the gym, everything is full speed. So you had to run and get the ball off the rack. And if you're working on your one-on-one game, it's full speed. That was his thing. Are we going to be running all practice? So basically, that's kind of what they told me and Paul and all the freshmen or whoever else. So you got to come in there and go home. But just learning, watching them, learning how to work hard, kind of how to conduct myself and how to, I learned a lot from them by just observing. And that helped. That helped because it was an adjustment period. Well, I'm thinking I'm gonna come and play, and I'm not gonna play, because you didn't have all the information you had now on the internet to know what was going on. So I just remember it was a tough year in trying to learn how to play in Coach Floyd's system and everything. It wasn't a good fit for me, Carl.
But you got some time off the bench in that team.
I was one of the only
guys that played off because Coach Floyd only played 2, maybe 3 guys as reserves, and you got some playing time.
I got some playing time. Clay Edwards was probably the first person off the bench. Clay hit a big shot. I want to say to send us to the Sweet 16.
I was going to say that was the Sweet 16 year.
Yeah.
Was that against UCLA? Tyus Edney?
Cameron Dollar.
Cameron Dollar, that's it. Yeah.
Over Cato.
Yep, absolutely.
So Clay hit the shot against Cincinnati.
Shout out, big play, Clay Edwards.
Yes. Cincinnati had Danny Fortson, which was one of the best players in the country.
He was a horse.
I think Ruben Patterson might have been there.
Yeah, that was one of Coach Huggins' best teams.
They called him Elevator Man. What was his name? Levitt? His last name was what was his name?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
I remember Cato met him with about this much over the rim and hit it like he was trying to stop it. Like we ended up winning that game, but Clay had a hook left or right.
Yeah.
He had a huge left-hand hook to give us the lead. Cato played great that game. Nice. We lost to UCLA in the Sweet 16. And I know Toby Bailey now. My girl and his wife was they grew up together, best friends. So I go over there all the time.
Okay.
And I have to tell them, like, we gave y'all that game. We was up 20 at halftime.
Yeah, you guys had the game.
And Dedrick had a pulled hamstring.
Mm-hmm.
And he was literally on one leg and he was the best. And I think he had like 38 calls. They still couldn't do anything with him. If he was healthy.
That summer, even after the season, because he and I used to work out in the summer, and he was still limping around on that hamstring.
Yeah, it was he was the fact that at that time I've never pulled a muscle. I never did anything. I have no idea what a pulled hamstring. I didn't find that out until I got overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even I end up tearing it because I didn't know it was pulled. I thought I had a Charlie horse. I thought I had a crap. I didn't know. Like I'm like, and the coach tried to put me back in the game and trying to get me to get the ball up the court really fast because I only had a couple seconds. And I heard it pop, when I went back in there. But I've never had a pull. I made it through all those hell practices we had at Iowa State. I was never injured. Knock on wood, I was never sick or anything. I probably made it through. I don't remember ever missing a practice.
Yeah, probably not.
I don't remember ever missing one. Like I'm sure I did, but I don't remember it.
I doubt it.
And if you made it 4 years through your Stacey and Tim Floyd practice, that's
saying,
probably why I started tearing
oh.
hamstrings as soon as I got overseas.
So talk to me a little bit about their coaching philosophy, because I don't want to tell people what I saw with Coach Floyd. I didn't want to stick around when Floyd left to be under you, Stacey, because I remember how angry I was during the season, but more so once I found out he was leaving. He recruited all you guys from all over the country to come to Iowa State, and then he bounced. But talk about their coaching philosophy. Start with Floyd, and then Eustace, because Eustace was even a different animal and had a profound impact on you as a ball player personally. And I'm as a Christian, I'm gonna forgive him, but I'll never forget some of the stuff he said and did. But talk a little bit about the coaching philosophy, since you bring up how tough their practices were.
So ESPN would come to watch their practices, like because they were known for their practice. And Coach Floyd would probably be 3 hours that we're in there, we're going.
Yeah, I remember.
Coach Floyd was they pretty much the same type of practices, 100%. I don't care if you're going to tie your shoe, it's going to be 100%. You're going hard, so it made the game really easy. But you had to be tough to make it through those practices. Like from the time I got to Iowa State to the time I left, 4 years of basketball, it was probably at least 30 or 40 guys that quit. Yeah. And these wasn't just guys off the street. These was guys who were
high skilled players. Yes, absolutely.
Just couldn't make it through it.
Yeah.
And I tell anybody, like with Coach Floyd, those guys knew what to expect, and I was able to learn it pretty quick. And the one thing that was kind of easy for me is I was so fast that whatever we had to make, I can make it, and I probably don't even have to be going, full speed or whatever.
Right.
But it was they put you in so many adverse situations to where it's to break you.
Yeah.
See who's gonna break. And it's to make sure you never break, I get the philosophy of it, but what I think of, looking it's basically a military approach.
Yes, it is.
If you're going to train a soldier, to go and fight war or to be by your side, you want to put him through whatever you can put him through, so you can depend on it.
Yeah, so you can trust him. I get it.
And that's kind of how their philosophy was.
Right.
And it was tough. The difference between Coach Floyd and Coach Stacey for me is because Coach Floyd, I had a relationship with Coach Floyd.
Right.
So Coach Floyd would go off and, he would be so hard on me. And as soon as they blow the whistle for, practice to be over, he might call me over there and sit down and be talking to me. Like he ain't like he ever
Yeah.
said a mean word.
Yeah,
But I
like
get
none happened. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
that's what it
And
was.
I'm the type of dude that I hold grudges. Like dude, I want to fight you right now. If you want to go in the,
In the back, man, we can get it in.
right, right. So that was the difference between. I think he wanted to see me succeed. He wanted me to do well. I just wasn't able to play within his system,
Right.
and couldn't get it fast enough.
Right.
Because when the end of that year, I should have been able to, and this is my head, okay, I can be able to do things. We bringing in Marcus Pfizer.
Yep.
We bringing in, they had a whole team.
Yeah, it was. I said this when I had Marcus on. It was the second best recruiting class in the nation behind Duke. If you guys would have got Gerard Henderson and
CJ
and CJ Bruton.
Yeah.
But even then, still, it was a great recruiting class. You guys,
I want to say, and I could be mistaken, but I want to say our class played the rest of the Big 12 recruits in some type of game or something.
I wouldn't be surprised.
At Hill, that's how good.
Yeah. The you know what? Yes, there was a game where it highlighted those guys. Was it the year before? How they bought in the recruits, but they played
with Marcus. They
guys.
played a game.
Yes.
That basically Iowa State recruits against everybody else in the Big 12. That's how good our recruiting class was. Yeah. And I probably hosted everybody who came recruited, except the people who was coming to replace me.
Right.
So
right.
I never saw those people until they got on campus.
Right. They never replaced you either. But yeah.
Gerard Henderson, I never met him until we was in the meeting, till he was there. Mm-hmm. Martine Rancic, I don't remember seeing him. Mm-hmm. And it would go further down when it was Richard Evans and people coming in. I didn't host those guys. I hosted Mike. Yeah. I had a good percentage of getting guys to come at Iowa State. So Mike, my boy Paris Carter.
Shout out to Paris. Shout out to Nurse. Shout out.
I hosted all those guys.
Yeah, no doubt.
So we get through, and to go back a little bit, my first year, my first day, it might have been maybe day 2 or 3 at Iowa State campus. The phone rings in the room. And it was Coach Floyd. He told me to come downstairs. So I go downstairs. And for some reason, Coach Floyd, I don't want to call him a Mississippi, but he always had me driving him around. Like even if my parents came to town, if he was, because he knew I would be driving, and I never driven.
I had to drive his Lincoln Town car. I had to drive him as well. So I don't know but keep going.
So anyway, I get in the car downstairs, right at Larch, in the little circle.
Yep.
I get in the car, and it's Jerry Krause is in the car. I should have known from that day that it was,
this was pretty much it. Yeah.
Right. So, me, Coach Floyd, and Jerry Krause just drove around and just talked about, I can't even tell you what we talked about. I know it was basketball and life and stuff like that. So I know Coach Floyd wanted me to really succeed. I do. And I feel that way. And I felt that pressure of, maybe letting him down because I wasn't getting it or whatever, along with my family and all the stuff I felt. With Coach Stacy, I've never had a relationship with him. When he came.
So talk about your time with you, Stacy, and that time, and how tough and difficult it was for you in basketball during that time, despite you guys being very successful.
Yeah. So Coach Stacy came, from I think Utah State. And I didn't know Coach Stacy. I remember we never went home in the summer. Right. We always stayed at Iowa State, played, maybe went to summer school, whatever it was. That summer that Coach Floyd left, I went home for a little bit. Yeah. And I remember they had a conference call with us, and Coach Stacy was on the call. And I want to say Marcus was either in the office, or something, but they were saying they wanted everybody to come back, So went back, and Coach Stacy was just, his personality was way different than Coach Floyd. Coach Stacy was a bit, really dry. Coach
Yeah.
Florida come in the room and light it up, you know?
Light it up. He was just he was different. He was charming. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
charming.
so I never could get a feel, and I've been really good. My dad gave me one great trait that is able to read people and get a good feel for them. And I never got a feel for Coach States at all. So our first year we may have went 500,
Yeah.
but it was hell because he was running off like we ran off everybody.
Right.
And it was, I remember we went and played. That would have been, I want to say Paul Pierce junior year when he went to the league. We went to Kansas with 7 players, I think, in uniform.
Wow.
He ran us so much, and we always they have dates to some of these things that Mike Nurse will remember today. Like, dude, how do you remember that? Like, what is wrong with you? You got hit by a truck. You should remember anything.
Don't forget him getting hit by a truck. We keep going. And played, came and hit like 6 3-pointers that game.
Yeah.
Anyway, I remember those.
We go to Kansas. You're not going to beat Kansas in Kansas.
Yeah.
You're especially not going to beat them with Paris could play, but he had pissed him off and did something, so he wouldn't even let Paris come on a trip.
Oh.
Lee Luck, we ran so much, and it was because Lee fell asleep and we was watching film.
Shout out to General Lee Love.
So we was supposed to, Coberly would tell us, you know, he'll fake tape us up and say, you guys don't supposed to practice day, Steve, because I was always, since my sophomore year, I was the lead on the team. And I could go in there and I can get them, hey, coach said we're not going to practice, but, you know, coach wanted us to take that. We just got to watch this film because he had been killing us. Right. Like everybody, I don't know how many recruits, they had great recruits that come in. Everybody had been ran off, like, and nobody was left, you know? And I always tell Mike, and me and Mike laughed, they was trying to run us off, but we was too tough. They couldn't run. They should have did it another way. Running and stuff, you're not.
Lock the doors. Don't let us in, but you're not going to make us.
Right. No, you did it the wrong way because Iowa State probably lost some really good players for them trying to run. Me and Mike, you couldn't beat it. And I was so, how my father raised me, I was so determined not to be broke that I would have died. I probably would have died out there running to prove a point to, and then staring at him because he wouldn't let us talk. I couldn't say anything. It basically, I feel like, you know, you had no rights. It was just like, it was different. Right. I was just watching 30 for 30 with Neil Reed and Bob Knight, that story. And I remember when I went to Indiana and the crowd just started going crazy. Bob Knight was walking. That man was bigger than anything in that town. And you saw how he was able to use in, you know, that part, giving somebody a lot of power. Yeah. And then you got these kids who come from these homes and these places. Like, it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of responsibility.
Coming out of high school, 17, 18 years old. That's
a lot of responsibility that comes with power. And that's why I always treat people how I want to be treated. Amen. I never, even if I'm in a position of power, I feel awkward if I don't treat you like you're my equal, because my mom and dad taught me, the one good thing they taught me was to treat everybody like you want to be treated. Yeah. My mom and dad was raised, my dad from Birmingham, Alabama, at a rough time. Like the KKK marched when I was in high school. Right. I'm from Mississippi where like I didn't grow up in the 70s. This is 95. Right. They marched in my city in 95. Wow. You know, so words didn't hurt me because my dad taught me early on, you know.
You don't hear it. Yeah.
You don't let somebody define you. I remember one of my and I hate to keep going back and forth, but one of my football buddies, a guy I had went to school with since we was kids. You know, he called me the N-word. So we fought.
Yeah, rightfully
so. And my dad, I remember my teacher, Miss Moore, was one of my mom's good friends. They brought the dictionary and they showed us the word, and she made me read, you know, the definition of it. And when I got home, my dad talked to me. He said, son, you can't let somebody, they've been using that word to hurt us. This is a made up word for people to keep you in a certain position. it has no power because you're not that.
Right.
So when somebody said, don't even get offended when somebody said to you, because it's not you. Right. And he was able to put it in a way that where now, if me and my girl, if we're watching TV or something, if he would be saying it, and I'd just be laughing because it's like a defense mechanism for me to maybe smile because it means nothing.
Right.
I would never get. I know what you're trying to do, so if I let you do it to me, then I'm the
give you
idiot.
power over me.
Right. I'm not going to give you that power. I'm not going to give that word any power. So they taught me, and then just you can't break. Nobody can break you.
Right.
You know, he didn't make you. He can't break you. You know, you pray, you do this. So get back to Iowa State. I'll see you in a little bit, but
Mommy,
come here. Yeah, okay. You can come back. Okay.
Sorry. Can I open this cheese?
Okay, mommy.
Shout out to little man Bishop. It's all good.
I'm sorry.
No.
So that year, junior year, was complete hell. And I'm thinking, like, Coach Reeves is at Southern Mississippi at the time. Maybe I transfer. That's what I'm thinking in my head. Never said it to anybody. But I'm like, I can't do this. Like, this is crazy. They act like they wanted us to come back. They didn't tell us they didn't. We get back my senior year, and we will have because you wasn't allowed to get together. You know, you can only get together in groups of 3. So groups of 4. Yeah. My group was Jamal Tinsley. We got Jamal Tinsley in there.
Shout out to Brooklyn.
Jamal, Mike, Cantrell, and myself. And we're working on guard stuff. Yeah. And I was, at that time, I had developed and became a really good defender. And I was giving them fits in those workouts. And I would always get my confidence in the summer and come back, this is going to be how I play. Because what people don't know, if we play pickup ball, I'm killing in pickup ball. I can do anything. It's just, if you put the 2 generals over there with me, I would say, I can't do anything. They got my game in a little piece of bag, and you just throw it out, put it in the trash. I didn't lose in pickup. My senior year, we had some of the toughest. Coach was rebound. We had some of the toughest rebounding drills where you had to get 3 in a row to get off the court. It was guys, you may stay in that drill for 30 minutes and you're dead. You can't even move. They can't even walk, you know? And I would see, like, it might be me and 2 walk-on. Like, it was they put me in a position to fail.
To lose, yeah.
And I would just say, hey, just check them for a second and I'll get it.
I got you.
I never got stuck. In my whole senior year, I never got stuck in that drill. The drill probably was meant for me to get stuck in. I never. I saw Richard Evans at one of the reunions, and he had a few drinks, and he wanted to, you know, just thank me for what I did for him. I'm like, Richard, what you talking about? Because I honestly don't remember a whole lot. Because I honestly had to block it out because it wasn't a good time for me.
Traumatic for you, yeah.
So Richard said, one time we was in the rebounding drill that I told him to go right or something. I helped him get out the drill because he was dying. Like, I honestly, like, how long are we gonna keep these guys keep doing this to these? You know, when you see the snot bubbles coming out your nose, and this guy getting like, dude, just check me. I'm gonna pretend like I'm trying to kill you to get that ball. Just get it. You know, I helped him get out the drill, and he thanked me for that, but I don't even remember that. I remember let me go back a little bit. Richard Evans came. Richard Evans was Slam Magazine top 5 in the nation when he got to Iowa State. I never heard anything about Richard Evans. So I didn't know anything. That was, you know, one of their recruits. The first day Richard Evans was on campus, we was in Larch, and me and Reggie was in our room, and, you know, we used to play PlayStation, and not PlayStation, whatever the system was at the time, Nintendo or whatever.
And the Reggie he's talking about is Reggie Hayward. Shout out. Shout out to the big fella.
Yeah. I had a girlfriend at the time who I'm not gonna say her name, but we was all in the room, and she played basketball, whatever. Yeah. Richard Evans, our door was open. Richard Evans walked by, looked in the room, then he came in the room. I've never met Richard Evans before. Me and Reggie just looking at him, you know, I don't know who he is. We don't know who it is. Me and Reggie probably could have beat him up. Right. Because he just walked in the room. He said, you're Stevie. He must have seen it. I said, yeah, I'm Rich Evans, man. I come and I shook his hand. I said, this is Reggie. This is, my girl, blah, blah. He looked to my girl and said, yeah, I'm the one that they brought in to replace your boyfriend.
Oh, wow.
This is the first, like, I've never met.
That's how you met him? Wow.
Yeah. So then he just walks out. He asked me, we're gonna be playing at the Run. We're playing at 4 at Bar or whatever. You're gonna be there? I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. I see it over there. And it was quiet. And my girl said, you better kill him when y'all go over there and play. Because it was just so much disrespect.
Yeah, that was bold.
So we go over there, Carl. I don't know Richard Aaron, but if you can imagine me at my prime in college, my athletic ability, and you telling me, Steve, I want you to play against Solomon.
Yeah.
And I want you to not let him. That's how it was.
That's how you went at it.
He couldn't dribble.
Good.
I didn't know he was slam magnet. Like I'm from Mississippi.
I'm
not scared easily. I'm not scared easily. I don't have good enough sense to be scared. So you're gonna have to show me the reason why I need to be scared. Carl, when I tell you, I wouldn't even let every time he put the ball on the floor, I took it from him.
Yeah, good.
And I just killed him. That same guy who just told my girlfriend that, he was in my room crying and saying he wanted to go home. We came back. And I hate to tell this story, but I said, Richard, you're going to be okay. They brought you here and they told you you're going to be here to replace me. I'm sure that's what you're going to. Me and you never met. I mean, you'll be fine. I'm sure that, I don't think you should leave and I was a gentleman. I said, I don't think you'll leave. They told you that. I'm sure you're going to have an opportunity to play and it's going to be, you'll be fine. I was the one who encouraged him.
Let's pause for a second. Because I want people to understand this is the dude that you are. Most people, if someone is being brought to replace them and it's being thrown in their face, they would never see the level of humility that you've always demonstrated. The fact that you're picking this dude up and still setting him on his feet speaks to your character. And so, sorry to cut you off. I want you to keep going, but I want to highlight that because honestly, that is who you are.
But the way I looked at it, is it wasn't his fault. I know the recruit. I know how they recruit him.
You know how the game goes.
I'm supposed to come over and Bankhead can't score. Right. I didn't think Bankhead could score. And I'm in California now, and I hear all these stories about how great Bankhead was. Well, you didn't know that because he was playing a role.
Yeah, a system that didn't they had 2 scorers on each team.
Right. That's how it was. It was Kenny and it was Dedrick for us. Yeah. And if we got some from Cato, we loved it.
We loved it.
And those games were 60-62. Yep. So Rich, I said, Rich, you're gonna be fine. Man, they brought you here. I'm pretty sure you're gonna play. Whatever they tell you, you just gotta play hard, and if there's anything I could do, this is me. Anything I can do, I'll help you, man. I'm like, you'll be fine. Wow. So let's say we go and we're starting to meet as a team. Mm-hmm. The first day we get to the gym, coach have on the board your positions. Mm-hmm. So he's got Marcus Pfizer, 3, 4, and 5. Mm-hmm. Paul Shirley, 3, 4, and 5. Mm-hmm. Martine Rancid, 3, 4, and 5. Richard Evans, 3, 4. Now, mind you, at this time, I've never played the 4. Right. I've only played the 3. Mm-hmm. Only, and I get to my name, and I'm only 4 and 5. Mm-hmm. That was the position. Nobody had a conversation, not like they had to tell me. You know how it was.
You would think they would tell you this is the role we want you to play, but they didn't say anything.
Nobody said anything to me. So on the board is 4 and 5. And Coach Perry doing those workouts said, Steve, you're going to be the best perimeter defender in the league this year. This is what he's telling me. Mm-hmm. So I'm feeling good. I get there 4 or 5. Nobody says anything. This is my position. So I'm trying to learn to play the 4 and 5. Mm-hmm. And what people don't understand, we had Martine, we had Paul, we had a lot of great post players. Yeah, and I'm 6'4". Right. They're all 6'8", and Richard probably, 6'6" or whatever. Right. So I'm like, man, this is going to be, I'm sure I'm not going to play because people don't realize how good Paul was.
I do.
He was just out, him, but people.
Yeah, I called him playmaker. This dude was a 6'9" point forward.
And
Yeah.
and I wish he would have been healthy so people could see. He
Yeah.
came as a walk-on,
Yeah.
and
And a
his skill
four-time,
level,
what is he? Four-time state high school champion in Kansas.
yeah, his skill level was just he.
He was
I
on.
love to play with Paul. You
Yeah,
know,
he was a very, very astute in playing the game of basketball. I called him playmaker because he was a point forward. And at that point, you didn't have 6'9" point forwards back in the day. Could
No.
pass from the post. But anyway, keep going. I'm
yeah.
not.
So we get there, and it is hell. Like, and I could tell right away, like I'm not supposed to be here.
Mhm.
You know, literally, and they was on mic too. They was on mic really hard. What people don't really, we lost Travis Spivey in the summer due to some, and Travis was a good friend of mine due to some
Shout out to Spivey, South Carolina.
Yeah. If Spivey, what I tell people all the time is, if Spivey don't get in trouble, we don't go to the Elite Eight.
Right.
Because I don't feel at the time Jamal was mentally tough enough to go through those practices and deal with Spivey. What people don't, Spivey was a beast.
Yes,
and the way they let you play in practice at Iowa State, Jamal wouldn't have, he didn't like that.
Yeah,
Jamal didn't want you to touch him.
Yeah.
But, you know, and stuff like that. So it would have been a different type of, you know, but so we end up going through it, and it's tough. Like, we would be in the gym some days, and I remember it seemed like everything I did was it was going to be magnified a little bit. And I blocked a lot of it out. But when we have the reunion, Cantrell and Mike told stories, and, you know, and it brought tears to my eyes because I didn't even know that they were seeing it or what was going on.
Right.
So we get there and we start the season. And Cantrell was going to be the 3. Mike ended up being the 2, and Jamal was the 1, which was perfect. You know, it ended up being what it became.
Right.
I'm trying to figure it out, you know. Martine get hurt, you know, Paul get hurt later on. But so we go start the season. And I don't know how I got in there to playing, but I'm playing. I don't remember the circumstances. We go to Drake. People don't understand. We only lost 2 or 3 games. We lost 4 games the whole season, I think.
4 games the whole year. Yep.
In the first Big 12 game against Oklahoma in Oklahoma. Yeah. We never beat Colorado in Colorado. They beat us in like a triple overtime, some crap. So those 2 games we lost. And we lost to Drake early on.
Yep, in December.
And it would have been Cincinnati in Hawaii. So when we lost to Drake, we're on the bus going back to Iowa State. And the next day, we're going over there to that holiday classic to play with the tournament Cincinnati was in.
Yeah.
Soon as right before we get off the bus, they said, Larry want to meet with you guys. And we're going to meet in the office in Hill. I don't remember the Drake game. I don't remember a whole lot. But I remember that game, I had about 12 points, and I led us in rebound. It wasn't like I was shooting, you know, because I didn't shoot. You know, I didn't do any of that. It probably was handoffs from Jamal or rebounds, putback. We get to the gym, and Larry just go on. And it's all on me that I wasn't accepting my role. I didn't know what was going on, Carl. Like, I don't even shoot the ball. Like, what do you want me to do? I don't know what's going on. But it was my fault we lost the game. And it was, you know, I'm not accepting my role, blah, 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 this and that. So we end up going to Hilo, Hawaii. The first game we played the Hilo team. I end up breaking a record for rebounds or points or something in that game. Don't know how, like, Jamal probably was going and just handed it to him, landed up.
Right.
At halftime or something. Coach came, and we probably beat them like 50 points. Coach came in there, and he just went off on me. And I don't know what's going on.
How dare you show all the skill that you have? That's ruining my narrative.
I don't know what's going on. Like, so I wish that me and him could have had a conversation maybe after I was done and maybe understand. I just don't know. Like, as a person, I don't really.
Well, I'm going to say this. And this is to Larry Eustace. If there's any chance that you hear this and have the opportunity to come back and I believe you owe Stevie and some of those other guys an apology, but specifically Stevie. I would ask that you would do so and explain yourself. And we understand some of the substance issues you had going on then, but it still didn't change how you treated this man. And so
Well,
I would push
I
you
saw
to-
Coach Stacy. We went back for the reunion.
for the reunion here just as
We
fast.
talked to him, but it
But
was great.
personally, did he address you one-on-one?
No,
No,
he would.
I'm asking.
This is the thing. Like, I don't feel like he think he did anything wrong. Like, that people, I see you, Coach. You stays a certain way, and I don't think he will ever apologize because I don't think he feel like he owe us apology or me apology. But so let's go back to. So he's mad at me for some reason. I don't know why. So the next day, I think, and I remember that might have been Stephon Marbury brother, because Rhode Island was in a tournament. Yeah. Lamar Odom, yeah. So we was in this hotel.
Coach Jim Herrick, who used to be the coach at UCLA, was the coach at Rhode Island with Lamar at that time.
We was in this hotel that it was all glass in the middle, and it was a payphone right in the middle for some reason around everybody. So I just remember Lamar Odom. So they called me in for a meeting, me with all the coaches, and I watched a lot of Crab Show. It was like they put a chair in the middle, and all the coaches was sitting around.
In a circle.
Coach go around the room. He asked Coach Brown, Coach Perry. He asked all the coaches, do they think Stevie improved over the summer? They all said no. He asked them, do you think Stevie out Richard Evans or whatever? They all said no. Whatever. I'm mind blown at the time, So it's hard for me to tell this story without I'm going to do my best. So he ended up telling me that you'll never play another minute at Iowa State. And he said that I would just leave, is what he told me. So
take your time. And while you're gathering yourself, this is why it's so important. I hope some parents and even some adults or some kids see this, because it is so important. When you entrust your child to another adult, you have to pray and hold that person accountable that he is caring for your son or daughter in the manner that is best. Because you never know the hurt that people carry for years after. And the only reason I know this is because we've had this conversation. But you guys need to hear it, the viewing audience, because this is how, even we're talking 20 years after the fact, the pain still exists.
And I went through therapy after.
Yeah, the pain exists.
Anyway, let me get through it. So he told me I would never play, and if he was me, he would transfer. That's what he told me. But we're halfway through the season, and back then I probably would have just lost my senior season. It wasn't the rules we have now.
Yeah.
So I went downstairs and I on the payphone called my dad. I could always call him, and he would always have the right words. So he's just like, you need to pray about it, and he's gonna have to play you. He's like, you're too good of a player. That's what he's a dad. I'm like, you don't
saying it right, but he is your dad. But I get it.
You don't understand. I'm telling you, this man, I don't know what I did to him. I'm like, this is not. I'm never gonna play again. And he said, don't worry, you just pray. It's gonna happen. So we get back out of that tournament. We played Arkansas. The next game, I didn't play 1 minute. We played Cincinnati. I didn't play 1 minute. Then we come back to Iowa State, and I was the last man on the bench. What people don't realize is if Paul Shirley and Martine Ransom don't get hurt, I was never going to play again.
Yeah.
Reggie was coming to the game, sitting front row, yelling, "Larry, you didn't put Stevie in," embarrassing me, like he was a nut.
Thank you, Reggie. Thank you.
But he was only making, Larry didn't play that, so he was only making it worse.
Still, he needed to hear it, so I'm glad Reggie did it. Good.
So it ended up, they get hurt, and then I got to have another one of these meetings where you know, where you can do some good for this team. You know, you know, you can rebound and defend or whatever. And he would like just small things. Like he would draw a circle. He drew like a circle on the board and he put like a dot in the middle and said, that's, you know, I was the worst player on the team. And this is, you know, my skill. Everybody is smaller than anybody in the room. And he would say this in front of everybody, like, you know, so I didn't know what to do. So I just worked. And it just, I ended up in there playing, and Paul and Martine got hurt, and ended up playing, you know. They had a decent.
And as you end up playing, let's end this portion by talking about how well you guys did, because you didn't just play. I'm thinking specifically in the Big 12 tournament against Oklahoma State, you and Marcus putting up 20 points. But talk about how you guys finished that time.
We didn't lose. We lost to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And we didn't hardly lose. But it was still like we wasn't the cream of the crop. They were still talking about Texas. They were still talking about Oklahoma. And we were beating all these teams.
Right.
You know, so we just ran in car. Like, I hate it because every time people want to talk about it, I don't remember a lot. I think I checked out just to make it through it, to be honest with you. I don't even think I was smile. I don't think I started smiling again until I got on the football team with Reggie now. And I could be in the locker room and I could talk. I could have a voice. Yeah. You know, so, and they accepted me, and we'll get to that. But man, it was a living hell. Like, I went back to work some camps for Fred Harburg, and when George was there. And I went to the office to just thank Fred for letting me work the camp with him. And George Niang was there with his feet, laying on the couch with his feet on Fred's desk, and Fred's daughter was in there. It was like, and I just felt so cheated out of my whole college experience. Like, I was, hey man, I could have actually enjoyed it a little bit and maybe still had some of the same success that we had. But back then it was the military approach, and it was different. Now the kids have the power, but I always tell people, when you have a lot of power, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that.
You gotta be judicious in how you flex it, and
we met up. Might have been 10 or 15 years ago. I was on the East Coast, and I was still playing ball, and I took Mike and his mom out, and we was sitting there at lunch, and she was still almost in tears. She said she didn't know the stories. She said, and we telling stories, and she said, I never knew that they was treating y'all like that, you know. And she was dang there in tears, and that killed me. I couldn't tell my mom. My mom wanted to come to the reunion this year, but I couldn't let her come because my mom is
you're gonna say something.
She still feel a certain way, you know. And I don't harbor any, you know, feelings against Coach State, whatever reason he had or whatever. It is what it is, you know. But she's I like. She's still, you know, she's my mom, so she's my biggest, you know, supporter, advocate. So man, I felt embarrassed, Carl, like, because I know how I played in high school and what I was supposed to achieve. That didn't happen. So when
it wasn't due to any work ethic, or
it wasn't work ethic. It just I couldn't get it onto the court like during the game. So I take, you know, I don't blame that on Coach Stacy or Coach Floyd. I have to. I wish I could navigate it a little different and could have put, you know, because I know I was very talented, but I didn't have the confidence like Mike. Coach would maybe tell Mike, that's not a good shot. Don't take this shot. Mike come back the next time and shoot it and just stare at him. And just stare at him like, yeah, I just shot it from half court and made it. And when the next time we come back out here, I'm going to do the same. And I just didn't have that.
Yeah, I get it.
I get it. And I admire that so much from Mike. Mike don't even know. I never told him that. Like, that would make me feel like, I'm like, I need that. I need to get that. So I would go home in the summer, and I always could play away from there. and I was playing against Clarence Weatherspoon back at the Southern.
Big C
Paul,
Spoon.
I was killing. You hear everybody in there saying Stevie's the best player in the gym,
Mhm.
you know, and I would be just killing it. But when I would get back there, I just couldn't do it.
Mm.
And people, the one thing what people don't know, like the fans was always great. I didn't hear when people was talking bad about me. I never heard it.
No,
And we don't have social media
they
like
love
we
you.
have today
Right.
to where we could see, you know, like I remember Mike Nurse's brother going on one of the back channel chats and
Mhm.
see how bad they was talking about me and Mike before our senior season.
Oh,
And they
wow.
need to get rid of us and blah, blah, blah. But I never saw that.
Right.
And the people always treated like Iowa State is one of my second home. I don't regret it. I don't regret my decision coming to Iowa State because of you, because of Reggie, because of Mike, people I met.
Mhm.
And before, you know, I would come and talk to you, and we wouldn't even talk, just sit in the room you would help me just gradually get a little confidence.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
me, Friday and Saturday nights, we would just sit in the dorm and talk. Everybody out running the street. We was
Yeah.
chilling. But it was important to me because I saw how you felt. And I'm coming off of being a track athlete, knowing I felt like I squandered the opportunity, but not having the confidence. So I knew my job is to pass on a little bit of what I gained as a Division I athlete and coaches that treat you any old type of way.
like people don't understand it. I had friends but I wouldn't have made it through it, man. And I was just thinking but a couple of days ago before we did the podcast, there's a lot of stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
From my 12th grade year, I lost my best friend in a car accident. Watch him basically die.
Wow.
My freshman year, my dad left my mom, like divorce, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
My mom's health is declining mentally. Just talking to her, I could see it was so much on me. I didn't know what to do, and it was just
tough.
You and the people around me helped me get through. And I couldn't talk to my brother. We didn't have, like, I never saw my dad hug my mom. We didn't show emotion like that. I couldn't call my brothers and talk to them, but they were like, you just got to tough it. They didn't know how to. They hadn't been in that situation.
Right.
So I made it through, and I'm tougher on the other end forward. But man, it took something from me. It definitely took, and I didn't even realize because I just packed it. Never talked about it. So when I finished playing ball overseas, I know Cantrell, and I don't want to put his business out there, but John Lucas said athletes have two deaths: when they stop playing and when, of course, the good Lord calls home. Cantrell kind of went through stuff before he got hit, when he stopped playing, kind of, within himself or whatever. And I just saw that, and I'm like, man, I want to go talk to somebody. So I went and talked to a therapist, and oh my God, she was bringing out so much stuff. I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, that I just had packed in from college, and that helped me, man. Like, to forgive people that, who probably never asked, that helped me to go and to become a better person and a better man. Yeah. And, it's so much I learned that the first thing when I talk to kids, I want to tell them is confidence is, you don't understand how much confidence is, and now you're able to express it more. And
well, you've helped my son over the last couple of years, because there was a time where he had no confidence. So I'm telling you, I appreciate you because you're passing that same message on to my son, and anyone who's seen my son on social media knows that he's starting to really show and prove. But no one knows what it was like 2 years ago but you. So yeah, thank you.
And that's what anytime I can talk to any kid, like, that's the first thing. All my nieces and nephews, that's what I told. I always said, don't let them take your confidence. Yeah. No matter what. I've seen guys overseas who would be the MVP of the league, change team for more money. They try to play them a different way, and they get fired before Christmas. And they don't have the come, like, what's going on? Don't have the confidence. I had 1 year like that overseas where during Hurricane Katrina, that was a rough year for me. I reverted back to Iowa State. And maybe if we got time, we can talk about some of the stuff overseas. I reverted back to Iowa State because I had to learn how to be that guy again.
Mhm.
So I went to Iceland.
Yeah.
And it was just by chance.
Mhm.
One of the managers on the basketball team was from Iceland.
Oh,
And
wow.
I had just finished playing football. And
Mhm.
he called me one day and said, Stevie, I got this. Are you interested in playing basketball again? I said, yeah, I would love to. Nobody was advocating for me to play, you know?
Right.
Because I got a buddy that's, in Iceland, and I think I can get you over there.
Mhm.
And that's how it started.
Yeah.
So his buddy called me, and we got a team for you, just, where you can come and play. I was supposed to leave, and 9/11 happened.
Mm.
So that put things on pause for a little bit.
Yeah.
Ended up leaving maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks after that.
Mhm.
Went over there, and I had gained weight from football. So I had the best first step of anybody. I'm doing it, and I'm not going by these guys. Like, what? I
Right.
lost it. I'm thinking about it. I didn't realize what needed to happen.
Right.
And my first coach was a blessing, because he was an Icelandic guy that had played in Kentucky at a small school in Kentucky.
Mhm.
And we had our first game, we won. I probably had a triple double,
Right.
but 20 points or whatever. And
Mhm.
he pulled me to the side, because he would give me rides and stuff.
Mhm.
He said, Stevie, you playing the game the right way.
Mhm.
And I love that. As a coach, I love it.
Mhm.
But they send guys home if they don't lead the league in scoring or lead the team. I need you to be more selfish.
Wow.
And this is hard for me, because
Yeah, because you had never heard that before, so I can
I
understand
have
you.
been programmed to play,
Yeah.
and even in high school, Carl, like all those points I had, I probably could have had 500 more, but I wanted my teammates to feel involved. I had the ball right. My dad would get so frustrated. I would have the ball right under the basket, pump fake, hand it to my boy so he can lay it up.
You get a score.
But he didn't understand, like, I got to keep these boys playing.
Yeah.
You
But it
know,
was also your heart. This is who you are.
right. I hated attention.
Yeah.
I hated, I didn't want the attention. I didn't want to do the interviews after the game.
Mhm.
Like, it was like, I just wanted to play,
Mhm.
So he told me that. I said, okay, I got in better shape. I led the league in scoring. I averaged like 34 points or something.
Mhm.
Led the league in scoring and rebounding
Mhm.
my first year in Iceland. Came back my second year and led it in scoring again. I don't know if I got MVP both years. I don't remember. But I met a good guy, a good friend of mine, Damon Johnson, who went to Tennessee.
Okay.
He became like a little mentor, because he had played over there, and me and Damon ended up meeting again in Spain.
Mm.
But Damon was a legend over there. Had dual citizenship, an Icelandic passport. So
Yeah.
he kind
Yeah.
of took me under his wing and taught me the
Yeah.
ropes and stuff, how to act as a
As a
pro
professional.
player.
Yeah.
And from there, I got a chance. Me and Mike went to this camp. It might have been in Portugal or something. I don't remember where we were.
Mhm.
We went to this camp. We had got an agent, and I got a chance to go to Spain.
Mhm.
And from there, it was
Mm.
just shot up, man. I was doing so good. I played.
How many MVPs?
Over my career, I probably had probably 5 or 6
Yeah.
MVP of the league,
Yeah.
which was, man, it was so surreal, Carl, because I had went all the stuff I went through in college. I didn't know I could have that again.
Right.
You know, I remember like it was yesterday, and I hope my son or your son can experience this. I'm at the free throw line. We're in Spain. We're on one of the MVP years. We're in Spain. We're in the playoffs. My team finna win a championship. We're on the opponent's at the opponent's arena, and I'm getting ready to go to free throw line. They start chanting MVP for me. The whole crowd. Because my guys would be playing drum and they would start it. It was always so embarrassing for me. You know me, I hated that. But I was able to soak it in that time, and
That
you
was
don't
awesome.
get that feeling. You
No,
can't
you
get that.
don't. That's
People
awesome.
don't understand like what that feels like.
Yeah.
Like to get that, oh man, it was just like, of course after the game I'm modest, and I don't, I appreciate it or whatever, but to get that feeling and to see the type of player I was and the people appreciated me
Yeah.
for
Rightfully
what
so.
I did, and then the type of person I was off the court, what people don't realize, I've never been drunk a day in my life. I've never been high. So I wasn't going to the nightclubs and stuff. And I was always, the people loved me.
Yeah.
In the city. Every city I played in,
Every place you've ever been, let me just tell you from what
Yeah.
I know, most beloved. Keep going.
they loved me. And I remember
Awesome.
when, as I got older in my career, and we was go to the schools and teach the kids and talk to the kids.
Mhm.
And we went there, and my boy Zach Andrews was a young boy.
Mhm.
Zach Andrews, Zach was one of the best athletes you ever seen.
Mhm.
But mentally, he just couldn't really get the game. Like, he should have been in the NBA, and he's played in the NBA.
Mhm.
He has some 15-day contract. Right now, he's an actor. He's on
Wow.
shows and stuff right now, and I'm super proud of him. Like, he's
Mhm.
doing his thing. Zach has been in commercials for LeBron James,
Okay.
and he's been in commercial for Carmelo Anthony, where
Okay.
he's them. They
Yeah.
don't do the jumping and dunking in those
Yeah,
commercials.
he's
It's Zach
it's
doing.
him. Wow.
Like, he's amazing, and he's in all type of action films and stuff. But anyway, we was at a school, and I'm just sitting there, and we done did what we were supposed to do, and we doing autographs. All the kids are coming up to Zach because Zach does all the dunking.
Yeah.
And I remember the owner of the team, he's looking at me because he think I'm feeling a certain way about this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not getting enough attention. But that's
Yeah.
just not me.
That's not
And
you.
he said, Stevie, that you're the best, right? Like, he's
I'm trying to assure you that, hey, you're still my man.
he's trying to speak this broken English to me, and I appreciate it,
Yeah.
And I tell him, I'm like, yeah. I said, look, I need Zach to do this. He'll get the fans in the stand.
Yeah.
I'll make sure they leave happy.
That's
They'll
it.
win.
We'll make sure
And
we win. He'll get him in the stand.
I said, Zach will get him to the game. I'll
Yeah.
make sure they leave with a smile on their face.
That's it.
And he was so he will
That.
always repeat that to me. He will always repeat it. I'm like, dude, this ain't bothering me. So it came around, but I don't know who I was talking to, maybe my sister a couple of years ago. Like, and I was telling her how I felt like a failure, because of how my career, and my hometown is so proud of me,
Right, absolutely.
And but I just know I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve. I know I didn't do what I could have done.
Yeah.
I see people in Iowa State, people have been so great,
Mhm.
to me. And I would come, and they always, even now, but people would come up and give me a compliment, like, you was the best, you was the best rebounder road. It's really it's not a compliment to me. The stuff I was doing on that team, I could do that in my sleep.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it was such, like, I really wish they could saw what
Who
I was capable
really
of doing,
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Okay, we can continue to go higher, whatever you want to talk about, but I wanted to really you to know how important you was to me, and I think I've told you this,
Mhm.
but I just got to thinking the other day, and all, like, you mean a lot.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual, and as I said just a minute ago, even as you're helping me exhort my son a couple years ago in terms of confidence. Listen, um, I didn't consider you like a little brother then. I consider you like a brother. I mean, a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just. But again, not knowing the impact that you would have on my life. Yeah, I appreciate it now watching you raise your son, and to be able to watch, to see who he's going to be, simply because I know who you are. And that, to me, man, that brings me a tremendous amount of joy, because I know the sort of person you are. Your dad and mom instilled that in you, and you are one of the few individuals that I can say are living out the principles that their parent instilled in them at a very early age. And that's not normal in this day and age. And I'll forever be grateful for the friendship that you showed me, because just like you saying, you didn't know me, I'm this kid from Mississippi. You didn't know me. All I knew is, hey, this kid, I live in the dorm with this guy. He's a good kid. He's a good ball player, but it wasn't your basketball that I was drawn to. it was your heart.
Yeah.
And that's who you've always been. And but we're gonna end on that note before we both start boohooing. But
Yeah,
it's
I can't, I can't
yeah, because
believe,
you're gonna
like,
get me
even
choked
I'm
up.
so upset with myself right now. Like it's ridiculous.
Don't
But
be.
it just, I look at all these lessons and I hope that I can just give some of that stuff to my son. I don't know if he'll ever play sports. My little boy, he read books. He's just like,
You're still gonna
I
have
don't
to
know.
instill in him to be an achiever. So
Right.
whatever lessons you've learned, and it's the same with me. My daughter was never going to be an athlete, but she left high school as a state champion in academic decathlon. But my
Yeah.
encouraging her is no different than I do with my son in sport.
Yeah.
So regardless of the path that they choose, the reason I love sports, because the beauty of it is these are the principles of life.
Yeah, it teaches you so
It teaches
everything.
you so much.
Everything I was able to achieve overseas, it became because I was never going to let anybody tell me I was the worst player on the team again.
Right. Yeah.
That was never going to happen.
Good.
I was never like some of the, I just, that fueled me my whole career. And I think I end up playing as long as anybody, because I was told I should go home, quit. Like, I guess work at the local gas station, whatever I was supposed to do, you know? And I just like, no, you can't have that. You can't have that over me, you know?
Right. No,
I
that's
get
awesome.
to write how that story ends, and I was able to do it. And
you did it well, and I know we're appreciative of it. And this is going to be the last story that I tell, and then we'll close up. But I can't remember if you were playing in Germany at the time, and you came back to the States to visit. And I think this is like the real first time you met my son. You signed a poster, well, you sent a poster to Lydia, but you come back and you're in my living room, and my son's like, flex your muscle. And you did.
I was still in good shape.
But I always walk around telling my son how buff I am. And he's like, Dad, Stevie's muscles are bigger than yours. And I'll never forget that. Because at that point, Daddy's no longer your hero.
Yeah.
Everybody else. So, but he appreciated that. And after that, you were always, no matter what, you were always one he looked to. And so your son is going to do the same.
Yeah.
But at some point, like we all do, kids don't listen to their parents, they listen to somebody else's. But you find the person that you can trust to give him the jewels of life. And with that, this is what I want to say to anyone who's listening. You've just heard a man reveal some things that happened in his life as an athlete. And if you didn't know, you would have never known. Here's a high achieving athlete, played varsity basketball for 4 years, ended up playing varsity football, one of the best Iowa State football teams, and then went on to play professional, 15, 16 years?
I think 13 or 14.
13, 14 years professionally. But you got to hear him say there were some things said to him by adults in his life in a game that he loved and achieved at a very high level, made him question himself. So I just want to tell anyone who's listening, be careful what you say to people, because you never know where they're at in life. And it's important that we spend, especially in the day and age that we're living in now, build people up, because we don't know what people are going through. And so it's important to be careful what you say, because your words hurt. But I can tell you one thing, we're appreciative that those things only made you stronger, and you continue to be who you've always been. And then other individuals gave you the opportunity to showcase that. So with that, we want to thank again Stevie Johnson for joining us today and giving many of you a glimpse into the young man I met many years ago, and why it was so easy to be brothers. His story is similar to many Division I athletes, but the way he handled it with grace and strength was the epitome of the man he became. So thank you, Stevie.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us today on Carl's Corner, and we will see you the next time, because the block definitely stays hot.